Bill, thanks for coming on.
Yes, dude. Thanks for having me. I'm glad I'm here.
For sure, for sure. So you just got done hitting a little stairmaster at Planet Fitness.
I did. Yeah, that I
Yeah.
did.
You have anything else today, training wise, or?
Yeah, we'll probably whenever I get off of this podcast, I got to do a little thing for Adidas right after this, and then I'll start training for the evening. It'll probably be like 2-ish hours, somewhere around there.
Oh, right on. You guys got a photo shoot for Adidas, or?
I think it's just something to do with maybe shoes or something like that. I have to look into it. It might just be a post, honestly.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's
I got
cool.
somebody just coming to shoot some footage for me, and then I'll
Yeah,
start training.
that's awesome. That's a sick hookup. How did your agent got you that, or?
Yeah. So, Cooper Marsh, who's with Lab Management, I mean, he's
Mhm.
very well known for the agency world. But me and him have been talking for a while, kind of thing. But yeah, he got me an Adidas deal.
Oh,
I
nice.
think he knows he maybe knew somebody, and Adidas is trying to come into the space. So then he kind
Okay.
of gave them a few names, and mine was one of the names on the list. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, I jumped on the opportunity, and he's been super good as an agent. But being with
Yeah.
Adidas is super neat because I mean, obviously it's a really big and cool company, and then the fact that
Right.
they're in CrossFit is really cool. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's awesome.
it's been a
Um,
very very cool experience.
Yeah, for sure. That is a solid sponsorship for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny too because growing up, I played basketball a lot, so I always
Yeah,
wore Adidas shoes and that sort of stuff, and Adidas shirts and all that. So to think that like I'm sponsored by them now is kind of
it was
crazy
meant
and
to be.
surreal. Yeah.
That's dope. Well, Bill, you've been kind of storming onto the scene here over the last couple years. For those of you that kind of don't know who you are, maybe you could just give us a background of just kind of your training history, who you are, where you started with CrossFit, and kind of where you're looking to go with it.
Yeah. Um, So I started CrossFit probably right around summerish of 2020. So that was when COVID had hit, and it was like the whole lockdown started in March of that year. And that
Hmm.
was when like I was in high school. I was in a senior year of high school. So we like obviously the last few months of high school I didn't go to. I was
Yeah.
playing high school basketball, and then my aunt kind of said, "Hey, we have this thing called Murph," which I mean I really kind of knew what it was, but we have Murph coming up. Like you should train, get ready for Murph, kind of thing. And so I kind of did that during the lockdown time, and then that
Hmm.
introduced me into the affiliate because then I did Murph maybe late May-ish, whenever it is on Memorial Day, and then after that I started going to the classes in June, so about halfway through 2020, and then that was kind of how like I introduced myself into it, and then just like dove headfirst into it. Got my L1 probably 3 or 4 months after that. Started coaching about 4 or 5 months later,
Yeah.
and then started training. Yeah, so it's been
Yeah.
fun ever
Yeah.
since. So from that point to now.
For sure. So what kind of like Murph is a pretty brutal work. That was actually my first CrossFit workout too.
Wow, really?
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
But like it's a pretty brutal workout. Like what kind of made you like get hooked on it after that?
So I did a lot of push-ups and pull-ups and ran for basketball. Like I don't know why, that was just kind of like the go-to things to get ready for basketball. So
Okay.
when Murph came up, I was like, oh yeah, I can do this kind of thing. It didn't seem as big as it is, just because I
Hmm.
was like, I do push-ups, pull-ups, and run a mile all the time, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the air squats smashed me. Those were terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still, in my opinion, are the worst part of Murph. But yeah, so that was I kind of like led me to maybe think I'm like more prepared than I was for it, kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I jumped in and did that, and I honestly I just like that kind of training, like CrossFit itself, just that kind of working out. It's just hard. You feel accomplished when you're done with it,
Hmm.
and then on top of that, there's always somebody doing it with you, whether you're in an
Yeah.
affiliate at your house, whatever it is. So it just makes it fun. It's like you're both suffering and you're both doing something hard that you
Hmm.
both feel accomplished afterwards, and it's like that sort of thing is just something I really was drawn towards.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's like, do you get do you feel like the shared suffering is something that you kind of connect with a lot, or?
Yeah. I mean, definitely. It's like it's more that I think just me in general as kind of the person I am, I really do like to work hard in whatever I do. Like I'm
Hmm.
more obsessed with the journey than the end result. Like
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
love training. I do it every day, whether free, paid for, just people know about it, people don't. You get good or bad at it. Like I would do this every day, and it's just something that I enjoy doing. I just enjoy waking up, working really hard, and that sort of stuff. But there is something to be said about there being a guy next to you who's hurting just as bad on these 1,000 meter row repeats, and so it's
Totally.
like that helps you get through it, which is something you don't have in any other gym. It's just not
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I come from a military background, and that was kind of something that I had like latched onto as well. Is like you have this kind of shared experience and shared suffering that that really kind of wraps you in. Do you feel like so you have a pretty unique training setup? What do you think the difference is? So you've been predominantly on the individual side of the sport as well, but
Yeah,
you
that's it.
came from playing basketball, which is a pretty team dominant sport. What do you think, like, where did that transition come? Like, did you ever consider going team, or was that just like you like knew a individual right away?
Honestly, I'd have to say I really never even had thoughts of team. Maybe it was something
Yeah.
after I was individually done, but
Hmm.
from the get go and start, it was kind of just like individual because I always had or something that I always leaned towards and was kind of frustrating in basketball was like your success and how you did at the end result of the game wasn't totally just on your shoulders. And
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
like how good you were, how many games you won, how many games you lost, how well it was played, that sort of stuff wasn't all apart, like just wasn't on you. And so
Hmm.
something that drew me to CrossFit was that like however successful you are is all on you. Like if you don't want to wake up
Yeah.
this morning and go get your running intervals done, like it's on you. You're not going to hurt anybody else, and you don't have to worry about anybody else if they're going to wake up or not.
Yeah.
And so just taking on that entire responsibility with it is what I liked because it just made me feel a lot more in control with it. And I always
Yeah.
had faith in myself that I was going to be able to do what it took, kind of thing.
For sure. So you feel like the more like the accountability aspect, like you just being able to hold yourself accountable is kind of like a little bit more of a draw to the individual side of things.
Yeah, yeah, and I definitely have a obsessive personality when it comes to a lot of things. So just me
Yeah,
becoming obsessed with myself and getting better and that sort of stuff was very
totally.
natural.
Totally, totally. And you were actually going to play pretty high level basketball as well.
Yeah, I had scholarships to play college basketball, and honestly, that was the plan. And even so, the plan was play college basketball, and then afterward go start CrossFit. Because like I had known what it was, because my aunt
Mhm.
owns an affiliate that's probably like 10 minutes from my house right now. But so like family gatherings and that sort of stuff, I knew her as the CrossFit aunt kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so I knew what that was, and I was like. I knew that kind of thing, and I had watched a lot of the documentaries and that sort of stuff. That I was like,
Okay.
that's something I want to do one day, but like still it
Yeah.
was like I've been playing basketball my whole life. Like, I want to play college basketball. And just kind of as
Hmm.
it progressed through like sophomore, junior, senior year, the realization came that it's like I may not be able to play at a very, very high level for college basketball. Like I'm not going to Duke or something like that. But
Hmm.
looking at CrossFit, I was like, I can make the Duke, I can make the NBA of CrossFit, which is the games. Like I was like,
Okay.
I physically have the capabilities to do that. And it was something
Yeah.
that I think was like my deepest desire inside, even more so than whatever specific thing I did, was to be really, really good at something, whether it's professional, best in the world, that sort of stuff. And so like when I found CrossFit, I was just like, that's kind of what I want to do. Like, I think
For
this is
sure.
it because this is the thing that I can make professionally with. And that was honestly when I looked at all of that and weighed all of that out, I kind of realized that I was like, okay, so if I wait 4 years and play college basketball, then it's going to take me a few years to try to even get good enough to make
Hmm.
the games. And then I was like, by the time I make the games, like, I'm not going to be able to have a very, very long career because I'll be 4 years older than whatever I would have been,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that was when I like start waiting it out, and I was just like, no, like I want to do this now. I don't want to wait.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So what kind of drives you to want to be the best at something?
Honestly, the best way I can put it is that that's just how I was made.
Yeah.
Um, it's like I did gymnastics up until I was, I think, 8 years old. So I started
Okay.
really, really young. It was like Mommy and Me is what it was called. So I started like 2 or 3 years old, and I did
Yeah.
it competitively from like 5, 6 years old to 8. And like traveled around my region, which is like Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, like kind of around there, sort of thing. And I like wanted to be in the Olympics. Just
Hmm.
frankly put, like I was six
So
years old telling my dad like I want to be in the Olympics.
So even from like 6, you were like, you saw the Olympics on TV and you were like, that's going to be me someday.
Like it was just I don't know how to say it besides it was just in me. Like I wanted to be in the Olympics. Like I wanted to be the best in the world of gymnastics kind of thing. I started playing
Yeah.
basketball like I wanted to make the NBA. Like same
Okay.
thing. I started doing CrossFit like I want to make the games. Like
Yeah.
just the honestly the best way to put it is just like who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. So like whenever you do something, you want to do it at the highest level you possibly can.
Yeah, and no matter honestly what it is, it's more so of I want to do it at the highest possible level that I can, and less of exactly what it is, if that makes sense.
Explain that a little bit more.
So, like for example, it wasn't I was in love with gymnastics. I was in love with trying to make the Olympics. It wasn't I was And don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, I did enjoy what I was doing. Like I totally am in love with CrossFit, but in the same breath, like the want I had to make it to the NBA is the same want I have to make it to the games. And it's
Okay.
more so like I want that than I wanted exactly what that specific thing was. Because it's like it wasn't
Yeah.
going to be a ride or die. I'm playing basketball because I love basketball, and if that means I go
Hmm.
play at a D3 school because I can get playing time for 4 years, that'll be worth more than anything. It was like no, like I wanted to play at Duke
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
thing.
Yep. Yep. So it's like you kind of like the prestige of it a little bit, but you're also like the challenge to go get that prestige is something that you kind of enjoy
Yeah,
chasing.
it's just like the work of it. And honestly, it's like what they always say, enjoy the journey because the end result
Hmm.
won't ever be fulfilling. And it's like I
Yeah.
enjoy the journey. I enjoy waking up every day working out. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing better for me.
For sure, for sure. So I guess in that regard, like talking about, enjoy the journey, not the end result. Has there been something in your life that you've kind of like, hey, I want to do this, and then you went and accomplished it, and then realized like, oh, it was more fun working for that rather than actually accomplishing that task?
Yeah, I guess the first thing that comes to my head. So, in high school, freshman year and then junior year, I ran track. I was gonna run my senior year too, but COVID happened.
Hmm.
And my junior year, I had been like training earlier, even during basketball season for track because they had a record of 400 meter, the open 400 meter record at the school was like 30 years old, and I
Okay.
was pretty athletic growing up, so it was one of those things that I took really well even to running.
Yeah.
And it was like I wanted that record. Like I wanted my name to be on the record board. It was like one of the oldest records we had at the school. And I
Okay.
knew from running freshman year, so I ran in the 4x4 and 4x2, so only relays. So I didn't
Okay.
know exactly what my open time would be, but I knew I had a shot. And then I was also 2 years older, so at that age you just mature in two
Right.
years.
Right.
And so I knew I had a shot. So it was something that I worked hard for even during the basketball season, transitioned into track, and then I was working very hard during the track season. And it was kind of like that entire process led me up to the meet before the district meet where I broke the record.
Okay.
And it it made me realize that like I remember standing there afterwards and being like, man, this feels really good. It's like all that hard work is paying off, but it's like I realized that I enjoyed the Saturdays that I woke up and went and ran in my neighborhood and ran some rest in
Yeah.
my neighborhood more so than like me standing right there and having five people tell you, hey, dude, good job, like your name's on the board now, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
For
yeah, I
sure.
mean that's off the top of my head, that's probably something that I would think of where it's like the journey and the work that I had to put in with that sort of stuff was a lot more fun and fulfilling than the final
Totally.
destination.
Totally. So do you feel like that's something that might happen, like if you do make the CrossFit Games this next year, next 2 years? Or?
Yes, and I think I have no doubt in my mind that it's going to be something that I mean, like when it's all said and done and my career's over and everybody else's career, if you want to be totally frank with it all, in 5 years, like nobody's gonna remember. Nobody's
Hmm.
gonna remember who
Yep.
won. Nobody's gonna remember who won the
Totally.
games like in 2009. Like nobody would know. Like you ask
Yeah.
anyone, nobody's gonna be able to say blah blah blah. Like nobody's gonna say
Hmm.
Miko Salo, I think won it maybe, but I don't remember who did. But nobody's gonna be able to say that. And so like in the grand scheme of things, I know that, and it's something that, especially with my injury, I've kind of
Hmm.
had to put straight forward and look at it in the correct light. That it's like, while this is something that feels like it's your entire life, like you wake up every day thinking, like, how am I going to be better? How am
Hmm.
I going to be the best CrossFitter I can be, kind of thing. It
Hmm.
also puts in perspective just like how almost insignificant it is, and just having
Yeah.
that understanding that, like, no matter what you do and no matter what you accomplish, like it's going to be forgotten. And there are things that are more important in life. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't wake up every day and have every breath pushing towards this. It's
Totally.
just you need to know at the end of the day that, like, whenever you accomplish whatever you're set out for, whatever it's going to be, it's like something of this world and it's not going to be the true fulfillment that you need.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, that's a great perspective. I think there's a lot of people that just get caught up in the day to day of training, the day to day of, scrolling on Instagram, seeing all these people doing all these different things, who's doing what on a leaderboard. So to have that perspective at starting out in the sport is just awesome. I think that's gonna carry you pretty far when things really again start to get tough and like you're
Yeah.
achieving your true potential in the sport and really competing against people. That's going to be a pretty good thing to fall back on.
And I think
To kind of yeah.
something that I've learned honestly through with my injury, which we can talk a lot about
Hmm.
too,
Yeah,
but
for
like
sure.
for me personally, like I believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I believe that
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing that we can have in the world. And so when
Totally.
I know that that is who I am and all my worth,
Yeah.
then I know when things like this, like my foot happened in CrossFit or whatever it is, it
Mm-hmm.
allows me to be disappointed in the time being, but have a greater understanding that that doesn't change who I am as a person.
For sure.
And I
For
think
sure.
that's something that really helps me stay level headed through whether it's I get sick at semifinals and then the following year I rupture my Achilles, or I have
Mm-hmm.
a penalty and I don't qualify for Rogue, and like the list
Mm-hmm.
can just go on and on. And it's
Right.
like I need to make sure that I don't identify as that, because then it
Yeah.
allows you just to be disappointed and not devastated as a result of it.
Totally, totally, and those are all lessons learned as well. So, and like
Yeah.
I grew up with a Christian background. My dad was a pastor for a little bit, and then we
Yeah.
stayed in the church for a while. And like I think one of the big lessons that I pulled away from it was like everything happens for a reason, and that reason is just a learning curve or learning experience for you as well.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And it's always just trusting like whatever plan God has for your life is going to be better than whatever your understanding can be. So even
Totally.
though it
Yeah.
seems like your world is coming to an end and you thought
Yeah.
this was the end all be all, like as long as you follow him, whatever's on the other side is going to be better
Yep.
than where you're at right now.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
gives you peace. And I think the biggest thing, it gives you freedom. It gives you
Totally.
freedom to be able to step out on the floor and risk it all, because you
Yep.
know that no matter win, loss, first, third, fifth, like it doesn't change who you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I've struggled with a little bit through this all, is like very
Okay.
just held tight on a lot of things, because it's
Okay.
like I've tried to control my destiny and the way this ends. And I think that's
Yeah.
allowed me sometimes to just not be free and not be as good as I possibly can. And
So,
I think my Achilles has taught me a lot with that.
yeah, so it's almost like during your start of your career, you were trying to be like, this is who I'm going to be,
Hmm.
and in reality, you kind of need to let go of that, and this
It's like
injury has kind of helped you do that, or
yeah, yeah, and you'll never really truly find out who you are until you let go. And I think that's
totally.
kind of been something that I've realized over the last few months.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Some great knowledge bombs for people there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I guess take us a little bit more through your CrossFit journey. I know we've been
Yeah.
talking about the injury. Maybe we can work up to that.
I can start
I
back.
Yeah, I personally found out about you, unfortunately, through your no reps on the V
Okay.
ups.
Oh yeah.
um,
You and a lot
but
of other
so
people.
yeah. So I guess take us through like because you had started the year before that year, really getting competitive, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Or
So I can kind of run you through it basically. So
yeah,
I started in 2020 the summer, and then the following March was going to be my first Open. And that
okay,
was also the first year of quarterfinals. So that was the
okay,
first year they were introducing quarterfinals.
yeah,
So that year in the Open, the first workout was the wall walk dub workout, and then the second workout was the dumbbell burpee box jump over workout,
hmm,
dumbbell snatch burpee box jump over. And the wall walk workout I ended up doing really well in. My
yeah,
shoulder stamina, I don't know if it was for maybe pull ups or push ups that I did earlier in life, but like I took maybe like crazy. My first open workout, I might have took 200 and something to 300 and something in the world.
yeah.
And so like I
That's
was sitting
awesome.
on top of the world. I was like, dude, I think I can squeak in the semifinals. I was like, I
Yeah,
may be able to do this. I was like, I don't expect to
yeah,
do well there. But then quarterfinals came around and I just got wiped. I think I took like
yeah.
700 and something in North America West, and this was my first year. And I was like,
Okay,
golly, I got some work to do. And that was
yeah.
kind of when I like really dove into, and I had programmed for myself for that entire first year. I did the
Hmm.
affiliate programming too, like the classes. But then
Yeah,
this is kind of that point was when I was like woke up and I was like, I really need to work. Like
yeah.
I need to like put time, energy, effort into this. Like I'm not working hard enough and that
Hmm.
sort of stuff. And so I put my head down. There was some obviously off season competitions that happened during that time. And then the following open came around. I did better than what I did before. Quarterfinals came. That
Hmm.
year we had that it was like the second year quarterfinals. So I think it was the GHD pistol workout. We had the lunges, handstand push-ups. Um, it was the
Yep.
total, might have been
Yep.
the other total, I think is what it's called,
Yep.
the power clean, bench, and overhead squat. So that
Yep.
was the year of all of those events. And I took like 40th in North
Okay.
America West. I'm sorry, North America at that time. North America.
Okay.
And that
Yep.
was when we qualified. They took the top 120. And then what they
Oh,
did
okay.
was they remember they had four semifinals that they put 30
Yep.
guys at each one of them, and you kind of got
Yep.
placed wherever.
Yep.
And so I got placed at the MAC. I actually got placed. I don't remember what it was called, but the Canadian semifinal. But me and Logan
Oh,
Collins did.
yeah.
But then we had to like say we can't go to Canada kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I got placed at the MAC essentially, and that was
Okay.
my second year in the CrossFit. And then the
Hmm.
MAC had happened right around the 2 year anniversary of when I started CrossFit. It was around
Yeah.
Memorial Day.
Yep.
Um, and that semifinal was the semifinal that I set the rope climb run, the shuttle runs rope, legless rope climb
Hmm.
event record. And I took 10th in that semifinal, and they took the top five to go to the
Yeah.
games.
Yep.
Um, and so that semifinal had ended. I was still very like new into CrossFit. I'd been doing it for 2 years, and that was like the first time
Hmm.
I was really competitive. That might have been like my third individual competition of my
That's
life, kind of
awesome.
thing. So,
Yeah.
and I was 5 spots away from qualifying for the games. So the
Yeah.
following year, I obviously had big expectations for everything. Like I wanted to go to the
Totally.
CrossFit Games, and the Open I did well. I might have took like 19th or 20th in the Open that year, and then quarterfinals. I before the penalty, I was like sixth in the world or something. So I was like
Yeah.
on pace to do that. And then obviously I had the biggest like rookie mistake of my career for quarterfinals that Hiller loved kind of thing.
Yeah.
One of his
Yeah.
biggest no rep videos. But so that happened and I just kind of like shook it off, brushed it off, whatever, learned from my mistakes. And like
Totally.
again, I've said this a million times, I deserved every one of it. Like it was
Totally.
things I did wrong. I don't believe or blame on anyone else.
Yep. Yep.
And then that year was when that was when they separated them between North America West and East, and it was top
Hmm.
60. And
Hmm.
I went to the West, which is in California.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, basically, long story short, I remember eating on Wednesday. Competition started Friday. Eating on Wednesday night, and it was like most of my family had come in, so we were all eating together. And I remember like getting like the beginning feelings of like a sickness in your throat, and
Really?
I was like, no, like I'm not telling anyone. I'm not acknowledging this. I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe if I just pretend it's not there, it won't happen, kind of thing.
Yeah. Trying.
Thursday I woke up and I was sick. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
Oh,
kind of
damn.
thing. And then just kind of like I did a little bit of active recovery, tried to go find a sauna, sweat it out a little bit. And then Friday
Hmm.
woke up and like I was very sick kind of thing. But like
Okay.
only told a few close people and I was just like, let's just see what happens. But
Hmm.
then I go do the first event and that was a super long event with that heavy sled. And it was like a big
Yep.
ski, assault runner, and echo bike, like 2,000 meters maybe on all three of them.
Hmm.
And I was so gassed. It was like the 2,000 meter echo bike was done, and like I had no energy. Like the
Yeah.
next 30 minutes was a literal fight for my life. Like
Yeah.
it literally, I never had put so much energy and effort into not walking on that 2,000 meter run.
Yeah.
Um, and then, so long story short, that event finishes, and I'm just wrecked, kind of thing. I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
sick, like body's not there, and it's like my intention was to never just come here and finish. Like I'm not gonna just take 40th and finish in 40 place. Like
Right.
that was never the goal, kind of thing. And so at that point it was like, yeah, we need to pull out. We pulled out, went home, and then everybody had also gotten sick in my family and
Wow.
like the group around me, and then we were all testing positive for COVID. And so we are like,
Oh, dang.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was just like obviously awful timing sort of thing. And it
Right.
sucked because it was bittersweet in the way that, I mean, I guess no part of it was sweet, but in terms of like I wasn't like I am today to where I was hurt. So in
Yeah.
like a week and a half, I was back to training and okay. So it's like
Yep.
it sucked in the moment, but in the same
Yeah.
breath, in 1.5 weeks, you were okay, as
Yeah.
opposed to like now kind of thing. So like I much would rather that situation than today's.
Right. Right.
So that happened, but then I was like, head up, we got road qualifier in
Yeah.
a month and a half or something like that, and I had good confidence. I knew there's gonna be heavy names in there, but that I was gonna be able to take top five kind of thing. Um, and then road qualifier happened. I was unofficially, I think, in second, I
Okay.
believe. I think it was Victor Hoffer. Like unofficial results might have been Victor Hoffer, me, Ricky, Travis Mayer, Samuel Cornway, one of those guys, and a few more after
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But
Okay.
then I ended up getting a penalty. They had a snatch ladder where it was like
Hmm.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 snatches. And it was 10
Yes.
and 9 at 135, 185, 205, 225, 245 with wall facing handstand push ups.
Yes.
My So on my set of 10, I accidentally did 9 and I walked to the wall and the judge just got me, he's like, hey, you got 10. I was like, oh, okay. So I turned around and I just like, it's 135 pounds. So I just picked the bar up and put it over my head. Well, when
Yeah.
I did, the camera's on side angle. My right foot's in front of my left foot. Like my feet weren't
Oh.
together. And then the way
Yeah.
Rogue does penalties is when you get a no rep, your workout is capped right there. It's not that you're just a 1 rep penalty. So my workout
Oh.
was 9 reps. I was capped plus, so I did 9 reps. So however many total reps was in the workout, I guess that makes 55, 55, 110. So I was capped plus 101.
Wow. Okay.
So then it's like that just shot me down the leaderboard.
Yeah. No
There's no
way.
coming back from that. Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
coming back from that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was interesting too because Rogue's I guess penalties are, I want to say maybe kind of subjective in terms of like some people I heard did some, like we had one workout with 120 dubs, some people did 115, and so instead of getting capped at 115 double unders, they just got a 5 rep penalty because it was like an AMRAP to follow. So it was like very
Mhm.
inconsistent, but it doesn't matter. Like I had a no rep right there, so it was like, and that
At
was
the
just
end,
how it worked.
yeah. At the end of the day, like that is something you can control. So it's like, it is
Yeah, I
what it
can't,
is.
no. And so I got that penalty, and then I'm like, golly. So then Rogue happened and that penalty occurred. And then I'm trying to remember. I want to say, yeah, Rogue was in August. Did I compete in the fittest experience right after that? I think so. I'm
Okay, so
trying.
you're at TFX in 2023, or well, I guess that would have been 2024, right? This last
Yeah,
year?
it's been yeah. So this was 2023, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Or was that
Yeah.
2022?
No, it was 2023. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. 2022 was the
Okay.
Mac year. The
Okay. Yeah.
following
Yeah.
year was 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, which was the year I got sick. So the beginning of 2024, this year, is when I did. Yeah, that makes sense because Rogue was a year ago. So yeah, the
Okay.
beginning of this year, I competed at the fittest experience.
Okay.
And it was just like, thankfully that time, like no outside factors happened. Like I didn't get hurt, didn't get sick, didn't get a penalty kind of thing. So it
You're
went
just able to
well.
compete.
Yeah, just it was literally I was just able to compete. As
Yeah.
simple as that's put. And so I did pretty well. I mean, I might have won that event by like over 100 points or something like that. Which
Let's go.
it was like that was kind of what I went there to do. I knew there was
Right.
other semifinals guys there, but in the same breath, it's like I do believe that I was good enough to have going to the CrossFit Games this year, and so I was like, I need to go there and show that like I don't belong with those kind of people, and not in a
Totally.
disrespectful way at all.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
don't mean that disrespectfully at all. I just think that's like that was my goal, and that's
Yep.
what I did. So I was like head forward kind of thing going on this year, and then do the open, everything's fine. I bring Hiller down. So throughout this whole point, Hiller and I had kind of become friends throughout that year,
Hmm.
and he had done a few videos. He had come out before, but I was like, ultimately, I was like, I need to bring him down for quarterfinals because I was
Totally.
like, last year I got the major penalty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ironically enough, I bring him down, and we get a box step up penalty like a lot of people did. But thankfully, I did good enough
Brutal.
that I could take the like me and Pat Vellner and Chris. I don't want to butcher his last name. Ibarra, I think's how you say it. I think us three in North America West got box step up penalties, but we were the three who stayed in the top 40. But
Okay.
like Nick Matthew got a penalty and he was out
Yeah.
amongst a lot of other people. But I think we
Yeah.
were the only
Yeah.
three who got penalties, and it's either we had a good enough score originally or the penalty wasn't that much, although they were
Right.
all major. That we stayed in the top 40. So yeah,
Yeah.
ironically enough, I bring Hiller down and then he literally judges me, watches me and all that sort of stuff. We get a penalty.
Dude,
So
it's
yeah,
so hard.
I know.
It's so
It's so
hard.
hard. So that was wild kind of thing. But I was showing up to this year back in California again, hopefully having to make everything right sort of thing.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then yeah, the Achilles happened. So
Yeah.
first exam was a run clean and jerk. Then we had the front squat, double unders, toes to bar, and then the clean and jerk. I mean the Achilles.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the legless rope climb box jump over echo bike legless rope climb box jump over workout, right?
Correct. Yeah, and it happened on the last set of box jump overs.
Yeah. That's how it always is, right?
Yeah, I
They're-
mean I think back so many times I'm like if I could have finished that set of box jump overs like it wouldn't have happened on rowing handstand walk snatches the next day. I was like maybe I could have gotten the clear. But then I also think I'm like what if I was training for the games or just training in
it
general a month or two later and it
yeah.
would happen. Like this entire
Yeah.
process would be prolonged.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's
like
always what ifs.
it happens when it's supposed to happen, and like with Achilles too, like they're tough because like it could be like totally fine one day, and then you do something like just like you could like have hopped out of the bed of your truck a little weird, and then
Uh-huh.
it's like damaged, and then you go do some
Yeah.
double unders, and then boom, it's gone.
This is exactly what happened. Like people always thought there so many people have been asking me, "Hey, did it happen like when you were jumping down from the rope?" And I was like, "Dude, I felt nothing. I
Yeah,
felt nothing the days leading up, the hours, the minutes before that. My
yeah,
stretching routine was all the exact same. Preparation
yeah,
leading up to semifinals was the same. I didn't even do that much running or jumping because it was like
right,
I could work on other things more so than that. So
right,
prioritizing the things I was worse at. So it
right.
wasn't like I overloaded a lot. I didn't feel weird leading up to it. My warm up was
Hmm.
the same. Everything during
Hmm.
the workout was the same. I literally just stepped off the box and jumped, and then I thought I kicked the judge behind me. And I
Right.
land on top of the box and step off. And playing basketball my whole life, you hear about people tearing their Achilles,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that's what they say. They either say you hear a loud pop or you
Yep.
think you kick someone. And
Yeah.
I was like, in that moment, what seemed like an eternity. Everything
Yeah.
flashed before my like I knew my season was over. I knew I
Yeah.
just ruptured my Achilles. Will you be back? Can you compete again next year? Is your career
Hmm.
done? Are you gonna quit? Are you not gonna quit? Like
Yeah.
everything went through my head, and the only thing that concluded from that one moment was like, don't quit right then. And I
Yeah.
had four box jump overs left to do. So I have
Hmm.
no clue how I jumped on a 30-inch box four more times with ruptured Achilles. Like I had no
That's
left
sick.
leg.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah.
But I knew that no matter what happened, like I was going to finish the box jump overs and I was going across the finish line, whether that was
Yeah.
in last place or not, because I knew that everyone there needs to see that in that moment, like this wasn't it.
Yeah.
Just wasn't like I wasn't quitting. Like I don't care what the repercussions of this to come. Like if that means I'm
Hmm.
hurt, not because I really didn't know at that point. I was just like, I don't
Right.
care. I'm not quitting. Like if I have to
Right.
rehab, which is what I'm doing right now, it's not
Right.
gonna be over.
Yeah.
And I remember crossing the finish line and sitting on the stereo, and the medical team had come and they're like, what do you think happened? I was like, I popped my Achilles. And they're like, I don't know if you would have jumped on the box if you could keep walking. And I was like, maybe you're right. I hope you're right. I'm crossing my fingers you're right. But I was
Right.
like, I think I did it. And they're like, do you need a wheelchair to walk off the floor? And I was like, no, like I have to walk. Like, and it was just one of those things too. It was like I didn't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what was going to be happening, but I was like, I have to walk. So then yeah, I
Yeah.
walked off the floor, went to the back medical room, and then they did the squeeze test where they squeeze your calf. And if they squeeze your calf and your heel moves or your toes move, that means your Achilles is attached. If they
Mm.
squeeze it and there's no movement on your foot, then that means no Achilles. And so they squeeze it and like it didn't move. And they're like,
Oh
your
man.
Achilles is done, kind of thing. So then at
Yeah.
that point, it was like, how quick can we get home, get an MRI to confirm,
Yeah.
schedule a meeting with the surgeon, then schedule surgery.
Yeah. Yeah. So how so like that process like how quickly did that all that happen?
So we flew home. That was Saturday. Competition ended on Sunday. Sunday, we left early in the morning for the airport. Flew home
Okay.
Sunday. Got home like Sunday midday to evening, and we went to straight to get an MRI that night. There's like a emergency room that also does MRIs here. So I
Okay.
got an MRI that night.
Okay.
And MRI came back. We were able to stay there and get the MRI. I don't know how to read one kind of thing. But then
Yeah.
I scheduled with a surgeon that I've known for a very long time, who's very known around here, has done surgery for like 30 years.
Hmm.
On Tuesday.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Maybe it was Monday, actually. It was like the next
Oh,
day,
okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
The next
Yeah.
day, we scheduled a meeting with him, and he does surgeries every Tuesday. So then he
Okay.
was like, I can get you in on the following Tuesday. So it might have
Okay.
been like a 9-day period from when it was torn to when I had surgery.
Okay.
Um, and so that was honestly the hardest week of this entire thing because I met with
Yeah.
him on that Monday, and then it was like, okay, we have 1 week until your surgery date. And it was for that 1 week, I knew that every moment that passes by, I'm not healing because
Hmm.
it's like it wasn't attached. And that's honestly been the hardest part of this entire process is because it's like I at least want to know that every day passes by, I'm one step closer, like
Right.
putting in one more session to getting better,
Right.
one more
Right.
calf raise, like whatever you want to call it. And at that
Yeah.
point, it was just like I'm kind of just sitting here waiting.
Yeah. So what was your mindset during that time frame? Like take us through from like, okay, they do this like you said your whole career flashed before your eyes and like all these questions, right? When it happened.
Yeah.
Then like they do the squeeze test and it's like, oh, this thing's definitely torn. And now
Yeah.
you're just like sitting there waiting. What was all kind of like the thought process, mindset, emotions during that time frame?
Yeah. I mean, it was like honestly, the best way I could put it is just like one word, and it's disbelief. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I tore my Achilles. Like honestly, if I still say that today, it sounds weird. Like
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around I tore my Achilles jumping over a box. Like that's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Um, and that's honestly all it was. And I mean, like you cry, you sit there, like I don't know if I slept that night, kind of thing. Like it was
Yeah.
just all of it trying to understand why, how long, what we gonna
Hmm.
do. And it was just like the mutual consensus was just like I can't quit, I can't stop, this can't be
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
I can't be done.
Yeah.
And that was just like very evidently what we came to that night. And so after that it was just like, okay, like we need to rehab, we need to be back for next year. Like now what is every moment we can do to get towards that goal? And so it was like
Hmm.
get the MRI, meet with the surgeon, schedule the surgery. But
Hmm.
that week, because typically after a competition, you'll take a week off of exercising
Right.
anyway. And honestly, I just couldn't bring myself to work out. If I'm being totally truthful with you, for that
Yeah.
week before surgery, it was just like, what's the point? Like, it was a hard week, honestly. But
Hmm.
obviously, being around people who care about you helped. And
Right.
then
Right.
once surgery happened, at least it was like, all right, every second that passes by, I'm healing.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
stepping towards being rehabbed
There
from
was
it.
like progress happening. So it was like a little bit more
Exactly.
comforting.
hmm
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's just kind of how I've looked at it from that point until now with it all. It's just
Okay.
like I'm just one step closer. And I think that's
Yeah.
been tremendous in helping my mental game through this entire process.
For sure, for sure. And yeah, that's actually something that I kind of want to dive into is, and I know we maybe touched on it in like the first 20 minutes of the podcast here, but where like you have a very good mindset around competing. One of the best ones I've seen out in the sport. I think a lot of that transfers over into life as well. Can you just take us through a little bit more of like maybe how did you develop this? Like where does it come from? What do you foresee any roadblocks happening that might like make you struggle mentally a little bit more? Obviously, this injury is a pretty big one, but it seems like you handled it pretty well.
Yeah, I think honestly the biggest thing that has helped me out with this is just having like a stable set of parents, and that's something I've been truly blessed with. And it
For
was
sure.
something that my dad installed in me in a very young age. He's like, I don't care what you do. Care if you play the piano, play tennis, do gymnastics, basketball, CrossFit, run cross country, like the list can go on. He's
Hmm.
like, you just need to do something and you need to work hard at it
Yeah.
because the lessons you'll learn, the trials you'll go through will teach you and prepare you for life. And I think that's something that's helped me out a lot. And that's honestly molded me into the person that I am today with that. And then going back to truly believing like there is a greater thing in life than CrossFit, and just
Hmm.
understanding and putting that at the correct tier allows you to be able to weather any storms that come through it, because you know the end all be all is not that, and you know that it is
Yeah.
really insignificant even though it seems so significant. And I think honestly being able to really wrap my head around those kind of things has helped
Yeah.
me give a better mindset towards when tragic things happen, like you rupture your Achilles or just honestly
Hmm.
anything under the sun.
Yeah. Yeah. So just kind of putting things into perspective that like has been really helpful for you to one compete better. You'd reference it like earlier in the podcast, like just risking it all out on the
Mhm.
competition floor. What do you like? Do you have any advice for people that like maybe are a little bit timid on the competition floor, or they're not like executing to their full potential on the competition floor?
Honestly, if it's tough because it's like you want to give a general piece of advice, and
Yeah.
more so it's going to be it's going to need to be personalized into who that person is and what their
Yeah.
situation is, and what they struggle with. But at the same breath, I think two things that you need to happen is I think sometimes you just need to step back and take a breath and really see
Yeah.
it for what it is. And it's like and then kind of once you do that, you kind of understand why whatever's happening is happening. And it's like, why
Hmm.
am I so nervous when I get on the floor? Well, it's like you're so nervous when you go to step on the floor is because you are obsessed with how you do. And it's like, why are
Hmm.
you so obsessed with how you do? You're so obsessed with what you do because you put all your worth into that. And it's like
Yeah.
all your worth is a placing. And it's like, no, we are way more than that.
For
And
sure.
so it's tough, and I don't know if I really have a general piece of advice for that, but I guess the biggest thing I would say is like step back, take a breath, and just try to see it for what it is, and then ask yourself the question of why. And I think
Yeah.
if you can do that, then you can see how personalized it is to whatever you may be struggling with, whether it's
Hmm.
being nervous before an event or just not feeling like you can get the most out of yourself. And you got to be honest. You got to be honest because sometimes the answer is not what you want to hear, but it's what
Yeah.
you need.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, no, honestly, that's like a great piece of advice for people. That's like
I try.
people need to hear that, and like they need to self-reflection is super important. It seems like you do a great job of that. But I think that's a big area where people don't focus their mental game on. So I think that's a huge like some great advice for individuals. So we're okay. So you have like a really cool training environment right now. We kind of chatted about it a little bit on the phone, some more, and this is like reminiscent of old Mayhem and Rich Froning a little bit. So can you just tell people about like the setup you have, like how it
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like how it came about?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, long story short, I've had a friend that may not be very short, but still, I'll give the story.
Yeah.
I've had a friend that man, we've known each other for probably 15 years now, sort of thing, and we've stayed friends throughout everything. It was like we were both originally homeschooled,
Okay.
and that was how we knew each other. But then I went to high school, he stayed homeschooled, and we still stayed friends. And then went to college. He went to college. I was still in high school, so I'm a few years younger than him, sort of thing. And we
Okay.
just honestly stayed friends throughout it, and we
Mhm.
started working out together a little bit, like at the YMCA, literally, actually.
Okay.
And then when he graduated college, which was about 2 years ago, he was like, "Hey, I'm starting my job." He's a civil engineer, and he's like, "I'm gonna buy a house." And at this time, I had been doing CrossFit, and he had been doing it with me, and I lived
Mhm.
at my parents' house where they have a big old barn in their backyard, and I had framed in a third of the barn, and so I had
Hmm.
like a barn gym essentially. um
Yeah.
and so he's like, look, if I get a house and I put a metal building in my backyard, which is just like a 30 by 30 metal building with a big old roll up door, and he's like insulated and that sort of stuff, will you bring your stuff with you, all the equipment you have, and then come move in? And so it's like, so we can like live together and train, because like him and I worked
Yeah.
out a lot together. He was always
That's
coming to my
dope.
house after work and that sort of stuff, and I was like, yeah dude, let's do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also, he happened to pick a pretty neutral location as far as
Okay.
like the area that I live in. My
Okay.
parents were kind of on the outskirts of it, so like it was hard pressed to bring people there. Now we're
Yeah.
kind of in a really neutral spot, and so he was
Okay.
like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so 2 years ago, I moved in here and brought all my stuff, and my stuff is probably at least tripled in size as far as what I had before to what I have now,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. But in doing that and being in a neutral location, I was obviously training every day, and then it just has attracted a bunch of people. Like we
Dang.
have anywhere from like, probably it's pretty average, like 10-ish people, that'll 10 different people that'll come through here in a week. And then we
Okay.
have probably 4 or 5 regulars that are here 5 times a week
Wow. Okay.
or more. So it's like literally I have people like, if I wake up in the I train like, typically I'll train 3 times a day, morning, lunch, and evenings.
Yeah.
Now it's dependent on if I coach at my affiliate or not. But
Okay.
if I train in, like, I'll have people who come in the morning, I'll have people who come at lunch, and I have certain people who come in the evenings. So it's
Hmm.
like literally like I will cycle through like 10 different people throughout the day, and some people will do the morning with me, some people will do lunch, and some people will do evenings, and some people
That's dope.
sometimes will do both at the same time. But yeah, it's like it's funny. We were talking in there, maybe it was a few days ago, and there was like 4 of us in there, and
Uh-huh.
somebody asked, he's like, "Oh, this is all that's coming," and I was like, "It's crazy that we've gotten to the point that there's like 4 or 5 people. It's not that many."
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So,
Like.
but yeah, no, it's a pretty cool environment, honestly, and it's neat. I mean, it's just like a building in the back of someone's yard. It's like
Yeah.
nobody knows they exist, and they just have a ton of CrossFit and stuff in there.
That's
So,
sick, dude. That's sick. So have you done anything? I don't know if you've seen this video from like way back in the day, but Dan Bailey does 4 different girl workouts against 4 different people. So like
yeah, I've
they
seen
come.
that before.
Have you guys done that one yet? Or
No, I haven't done that yet, but
no?
I've seen it. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
That'd be
pretty
fun.
cool. Yeah,
Um, so okay, so you guys just have your morning crew, your lunch crew, your PM crew, and some of those you said were like regulars throughout like maybe
yeah.
two of
Like
those
there's four or
sessions
five
or
people who come here 4 or 5 days a week, and then there's other
okay.
guys that'll be here once or twice a week, kind of just filling in, sort of thing, because like they want to come work out.
Yeah. So how big is your city then? You said you moved to a neutral location. Like how many?
Yeah. Population, I want to say, so for Louisiana, we go by parishes instead of counties. But I think in
Okay.
the parish I live in, it might be like, I want to say like 300,000 or something like that,
Okay.
250,000, somewhere around
Okay.
there. So it's probably
No,
not, it's not super big. It's not anything like Atlanta or anything like that, because I know y'all are in
yeah.
Georgia, but I don't know where y'all at. But it's not a huge city, but it's still, it's like a decent size
Okay. So like
for the
a
most part.
parish has how many cities in it?
A parish could have like 2 to 3, maybe 4, somewhere around there, cities in
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have like about like around maybe like 50,000 people in your city or
That's,
something like
yeah,
that?
maybe. No, no, this is totally off the top of my head, but yes,
Yeah.
somewhere around there, I would have
Okay.
to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That's sweet. So are
It's
these
not,
all
go
well,
ahead.
go ahead.
It's not like, I don't want to say I live in the middle of nowhere, but I also don't live in like a city, more of a
Okay.
populated suburb kind of.
Yeah, yeah. So are these all people like from high school that you were friends with that kind of are rolling in
Dude,
or like
I have guys that are like 40, 50 years old, a few of them that work out with me, and then there's some kids who are like 18, 19, kind of thing. So it ranges,
really?
and it's literally just people I've met. It's so some of them have been through high school,
Okay.
or some of them have been in the affiliate that I coach at, and then some of them
Okay.
also have been just from me competing around, just kind of getting my name known. It's just like everyone knows that, like, or not everyone. I don't want to sound like arrogant in a way, but it's like Bill trains over there kind of thing, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, everybody just goes there, and it's like it's pretty cool. It's a neat environment, and it really is really fun. I enjoy it
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it helps me because like it helps the mundane process, because like I can be in that gym for 6 or 7 hours in a day, and like that can
Right.
get rough. But if I was alone, it'd be 10 times worse. So
Right.
having new faces that are always ready to get after it, and honestly, it's like the best part about it is that everyone does whatever I have going on, kind
Right.
of. Like it's just like whatever's on the board that I need to get done in my morning session. So if it's like I gotta like, and a guy was with me 2 mornings ago, and we had like 30 minutes of row and bike, and he was just like there for it. We just put the rowers and bikers outside because we have like a pad of concrete that sits on the front of the building. So we'll roll up the
Hmm.
door, and then we can put stuff outside. So he was just out there with me, put some music on. Me and him were like rowing and biking for 30, 40 minutes, and he was
That's
just like
dope.
down to do it kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that helps a lot because it's like whatever I need to get done, I always have somebody next to me, like we talked about earlier, doing it, suffering with
Yeah.
me, makes it easier for me to do, and then we both feel good after.
Totally. And then just like that, I think the hardest stuff for CrossFitters, like the monotonous, like zone two aerobic work. And
Yeah.
so like to have somebody there for that stuff is huge.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So how, okay, so kind of changing topics here, but how
Yeah.
has the recovery been from the Achilles tear?
Yeah. I can kind of give you a general overview of how it happened or how they do it typically, or maybe just how mine went. But for the first 2 weeks after surgery, you'll have the stitches in because I have an incision that's probably, I don't know, it's probably like 4 inches, 4.5, 4.5, 5 inches maybe. So it's like I had like the long incision down the back of my
Okay.
bottom of my calf to the heel, kind of.
Yeah.
But the first 2 weeks, you'll be in a temporary cast that
Hmm.
you cannot sweat in because they have stitches that are allowing the incision to heal. So the
Yeah.
first 2 weeks after surgery, like I was doing like essentially bodybuilding stuff because I couldn't
Okay.
sweat, and I always had a fan right next to my foot because I was
Yeah.
like, I
Okay.
can't sweat at all because they don't want it to get infected. But
Right.
after the 2 weeks is up, they'll take the temporary cast off and take your stitches out. And then at that point,
Okay.
they check a few things: swelling, range of motion, and then how much the incision has healed. And then my surgeon will determine, because it's the first 6 week block, so 2 weeks
Hmm.
plus four, you cannot put any weight on it. It has to be like totally
Hmm.
immobile because they need to let the because once they take the tendons and they sew them back together, they need to calcify and grow together before you start pulling
Hmm.
on it, stretching again, range of motion, strength. So for the first 2 weeks you're in the temporary cast, the next four you'll be in either a boot or
Hmm.
they'll put you in a permanent cast, and that's
Okay.
dependent on how well your 2 week checkup goes. And like I said, incision healing, range of motion, and then swelling. And
Okay.
mine thankfully had gone pretty well from that 2 weeks, so I was able to go in a boot, which meant I could take it on and off, which was nice. And then
Yeah.
also it meant I could like move my foot a little bit and move
Okay.
individually move my toes and that sort of stuff. But I went for
Yeah.
the first 6 weeks of just crutches. Like I couldn't put any weight on it. And then
Dang.
at the 6 week mark, you go back for a checkup, and that's when physical therapy starts. And I want to say
Okay.
I'm probably like 7-ish weeks out in PT. So I'm
Okay.
somewhere around 13 weeks, maybe 14, somewhere around that
Okay.
range. But I started PT at week 6, and I didn't start walking till somewhere in the 7th week. So it was
Okay.
like, because like I remember like the first day, he's like, you can like put weight on it. He said, don't move, just put weight, just stand like both legs. And I was like,
Mm.
whoa, this feels so weird. Your proprioception is totally off. Like you have no
Yeah.
awareness at all. And then after a few days of PT, he was like, try to stand on one leg. And it was so crazy, I couldn't. Like, I literally couldn't
Oh,
stand on my
really?
left leg at all. Like,
That's
it felt
nuts.
like the world was moving around you. You had no awareness of anything. And so, like, you have to
Okay.
gain all that back. And then, like, you have to strengthen it enough. And then you start walking. And you walk with a limp because essentially when you step you don't have strength to press off of your foot to like
Hmm.
follow through in your gait, so it's
Yeah.
almost like a dead leg. And then as time goes on, that limp lessens and lessens because you can push off of it more and more. And then through PT you'll have check marks and certain things that you start to do, so it's like one-legged balance, and then you start using proprioception against you. So then it's like you don't focus on that. You focus on different other points, or somebody's throwing a ball at you, and then you uneven your surface. So it's like you could be on a Bosu ball or like a slack block or sand dune, stuff like that to balance.
Hmm.
And it's like all progressive. And then eventually I got enough range of motion, maybe around 12 weeks or so, to start, maybe like 10, 11 weeks to start squatting. And I started
Okay.
squatting with my heels elevated. And then I slowly lowered my heel elevation to where I was on the ground. And so it's just like
Okay.
all been progressive as far as there. But honestly, the point I'm at right now, the easiest way to put it is I can do anything stationary.
Okay.
And stationary meaning like deadlift. I could front squat, back squat, thruster, wall ball. I can kettlebell swing, like that sort of stuff. I can row, bike, ski, and then I can't do anything dynamic. And the easiest way to put that is
Hmm.
like I can't run, jump, burpee, or Olympic lift because like I'm not
Okay.
at the point of pressing off of my toes and doing something else. And so there's
Okay.
quotas that you need to hit with this. So it's like for the quota that we have is like 25 single leg calf raises at a deficit of a 25-pound plate. So I have to be able to stand on one 25-pound plate to a deficit, do 25 single leg calf raises before my foot strengthened enough to start running.
Okay.
So it's like things like that. There's been check marks that I need to hit, certain amounts of range of motion before like I'm allowed to walk and that sort of
Okay.
stuff. So it's just been kind of like hitting checkpoints. But basically where I'm at right now is everything stationary. The dynamic stuff is actually going to come pretty soon. Like I think pretty
Okay.
soon I'm gonna start like light Olympic lifting and kind of getting on my toes a little bit.
Nice.
But the biggest thing is like calf raises every day. That's been a huge part of
Yeah.
recovery.
Is this a protocol for people with small calves then, or?
Yeah, yeah. I haven't been upset by it. I'm like, at least my calves move a little
Yeah.
bigger.
That's sweet. So did you just get like obsessive about the like PT process and the exercises that he gave you too, or?
Yeah, yeah. Because it's basically, I needed to ask him like, and our entire thought process behind this, talking to my physical therapist, was like, look, I know I'm young to have this kind of injury. I know I had a really healthy and fit background beforehand, and then I'll be like dedicated compared to the person who just goes 3 times a week to physical therapy. So all that's
Mhm.
going to lend me to do is recover fast. And I was like, what I don't want to do is come back too fast because of that. So he's like,
Mhm.
yeah, he's like, what we're going to do is set basically like at this week you will do this even if you're capable of it beforehand. So like when I was able to squat, I could have squatted long before that. Like I can run right
Okay.
now. Like I'll have a little bit of a limp, but like if you told me, hey, go run, I can
You
run
could
right
do it.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like just because I can, because of all the circumstances that I just stated, doesn't mean I should. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the way I've been drawing out this recovery process is just at certain times he will introduce the next thing in a certain way. And it's like all that
Mhm.
ends up happening is because like my rule has been with my PTs like I don't do anything new and I
Okay.
only reiterate what we've already done. So it's like I don't
Okay.
introduce myself anything. And the PT I go to does CrossFit, so it's been good because he's had like rowers, skis,
Nice.
Olympic barbells, all that sort of stuff at his physical therapy place. So it's like
Yeah.
whenever I started echo biking, like I tried the echo bike in front of him, and then I went echo bike alone. Like it's just
Okay.
whenever I started rowing, like I rode in front of him, I rode alone. And so it's like I've been able to dumbbell snatch in front of him and then dumbbell snatch alone, kettlebell snatch, kettlebell
Yeah.
swing, and so that sort of stuff. So
Awesome.
that's been good, and that's just allowed me to not need to risk anything and make it very
Mhm.
black and white and clear. So yeah, I've been very obsessive with reiterating everything we've done. And I
Totally.
have like I do at least an hour to an hour and a half physical therapy, like specifically for my Achilles 7 days a week. So it's
Yeah.
like even on my rest days, like Sundays and Thursdays, I still wake up and I got my PT stuff
Yeah.
and go
Yeah.
on. So that's helped too because it's like essentially I'm doing 7 days a week of physical therapy, as in most people do like three.
Three. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
So
So is it challenging to not do extra stuff right now, or?
yeah, honestly, it is. I'm not gonna lie, it totally is. But the biggest thing is that like I've more so just tried to be grateful with what I have been able to do. So
Yeah.
it was like I could only so when I for the 4 weeks after the 2 weeks, so the 2 weeks for to get the incisions out, and the 4 weeks I was in that boot of no weight bearing. I
Hmm.
got this like somebody sent this like I don't know, it's like literally like a prosthetic leg, like a fake leg that I had that I would like literally put my knee in on
Oh,
my
wait.
bad side.
For real?
And yeah, I'm not kidding. So like I'll put my knee in
Damn.
it.
Okay.
It was like literally it was like a peg leg. And
Yeah.
your knee became your joint, your foot stuck out the back. So you
Okay.
weren't standing on that leg. So you had like a peg leg here and a regular leg. And I skied on that for 4 weeks. Because I was like, that was
Oh,
the only way I could
okay.
get my heart rate up because I can't bike, I
Right.
can't row, I can't do anything like that. So I was like, I can ski essentially on one leg kind of. But like I had a fake leg on. Like literally
That's
it's a
awesome.
absolute let me see, hold on. I think it's in the
You have it
closet.
here? Yeah, let's see this thing.
I think it's in the closet right here. Yeah, this is what it looks like. It's called like eye walk. But it's like my
Okay.
knee went here and my foot went out the back of it. So like this is where my quad went up, right?
Yeah,
And then it's just like a peg leg essentially.
that's awesome. So yeah, I mean, skiing's like almost one of the only things you can like. Well, I
Yeah,
guess the
so like
poles and
I
stuff like that
skied and
too.
I was
But
so sick of skiing, but then
yeah,
it was like I was finally able to echo bike. So I was like,
yeah.
yes. So then I could
Thank
echo
God.
bike. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it was like my foot got strong enough to where I could bike erg. So then I started bike erging. And then I got to
Okay.
where I could hold enough flexion in it to row. So then I could row.
Nice.
So like it's been tempting to do stuff ahead of time, honestly,
Yeah.
but the biggest thing I've tried to do is just be grateful for what I had because it was like I
Right.
had nothing. So it was like the
Right.
day I could
Right.
echo bike, like I was gonna be okay to echo bike for 2 or 3 weeks. And then it was like,
Yeah.
oh, now you can start bike erging kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's been good. But you're right, it
Yeah.
has been tempting and that's been tough. But I've tried to keep a big overall perspective, knowing that like it's always the way I've weighed it out is like so what you will gain from touching the rower before you're able to is not worth it.
Right.
Like it's like you're gonna row a week or two before you're allowed to row, and it's like would you get better at rowing? Like not worth it. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, if you do that, like, you're not even going to be able to elicit your full potential on the rower. So like,
exactly.
what's the point if you're not going to be able to go all out, you know?
Like it's totally just because you want to do something new.
Yeah, yeah. It's boredom. Like
Exactly.
have the discipline to not be bored, basically, or to
Yeah.
suffer in the boredom.
Yeah.
Um, one thing I did see, I did go through your Instagram and I saw you did a really good job of also being creative and like figuring out ways to work around the injury and like obviously your support crew there is huge. Like having somebody hold your legs for strict handstand push-ups. A lot of your hanging work has been really really awesome to see.
Yeah.
Where do you think like some of that creativity comes from?
Honestly, I think it just comes from like the will to do something and be better. It's like what I
Yeah.
don't want to do is just sit around. Like I don't want to give up. I don't want to quit. And it's
Hmm.
like I know I got hit and I got hit really hard, but like I just want everyone to know and myself too that like it ain't over. It ain't the end.
Yeah.
Like and I got to keep going. And so it's
Yeah.
like I need to find every possible safe, and I really reiterate safe way to
Yeah.
get better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, stuff's been awesome. So that's been
Yeah,
cool to look at. So,
it's been cool.
okay. Last, maybe a little thing to kind of hit on here. You train in the southeast, in probably one of the most humid and hot states in the
Honestly, yeah.
southeast.
Probably, yeah.
How do you manage the weather, especially during the summertime?
I don't want to say it's something you necessarily get used to,
Hmm.
but um, it's kind of like the best way I would say is just like certain things, whether it's like you're gonna run or do a workout outside. Like I definitely will be more inclined to be like, oh, I'm gonna do that in the evening or I'm gonna do that in the
Hmm.
morning, kind of thing. But
Okay.
honestly, like I don't know. I don't want to sound like for lack of better words, cool about it, but it's just like it's not that big of a deal, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And it
Okay.
might just be because I've lived here my whole life, so it's like I'm
Yeah.
gonna acclimate to it. If you brought me somewhere way up north, like I would freeze. I would not be okay.
Look,
So it's
it's
like, and those people are okay with it. So I think it does
not
acclimation does
everybody,
have
not everybody. I'm
true,
from
but
I'm from Minnesota. I was like, get me to the southeast as fast as possible.
that's funny. That's funny. But yeah, I'm sure acclimation does play a really, really big factor into it.
For
But
sure.
honestly, I prefer the heat over the cold for sure. Like I'd much
Yeah.
rather sweat. Literally, the worst part about it, honestly, is humidity. It's like if
Hmm.
I open the garage door to the gym is going to be soaking wet. And then
Right.
it's like I get worried about stuff rusting. Like I have a
Yeah.
dehumidifier that runs 24/7 because like it needs to
Okay.
keep it dry in there.
Right.
Humidity is the worst part of it all. Like if it
Yeah.
was just hot and not humid, I'd be okay. Or more
Yeah.
so if it just didn't make my gym gross. I would be
Right.
okay.
Right.
It's just like the plate, like you can't do anything on the rig, none of that. So it like kind of
Yeah.
sucks because I can't open the door until it's not humid, and it's like doesn't not get humid until it's cool, and
Right.
that doesn't happen very often.
Right. Right. So do you guys have like a bunch of fans set up in there or like?
We have window units that like
Okay.
literally because it's an insulated metal building.
Oh. Okay.
So
Okay.
the ceilings are probably like 14, 15 feet. And then
Okay.
we have a few windows and window units in there. And honestly,
Okay.
between it being insulated and the window units, it's totally fine. Like I
Yeah.
mean, it probably gets a little warmer, but like it's
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
bad at all.
So those window units can keep it pretty cool in there, actually, huh?
Yeah, yeah, you'd be
Yeah.
surprised. Like they do a really good job.
But
So
then
yeah.
you obviously can't open the garage doors then when those things are going, or
Yeah, I mean, no, like I said, it just makes it really hot in there super fast, kind of thing.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's sick. Yeah, it sounds like your setup there's pretty cool. So,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it.
um, okay. So what's next for you? Like this recovery process seems like it's going pretty well. You guys seem like you have a good system. Like, are you trying to compete at all before the Open and semifinals this year? Or
Honestly, like the biggest thing is next is like be ready for next year. And
okay.
if I end up being ready to compete and there is a competition beforehand that's like kind of aligned, like I would be totally open to doing it and want to do it. It's
Hmm.
just I don't exactly know. Like being honest with you, I don't know when I'm gonna be like totally ready kind of
Yeah.
thing. I do have like I know it's gonna be before March, but like I don't know when it's gonna be to where it's like before I'm ready and I feel ready at the same time. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna kind of have to let it see. I mean, we're probably what are we towards the end of September. Like, I think I'm gonna start doing the everything but running and jumping probably in October. So like my
Okay.
guess is I will have like outside of October running I'll be running in October, but like I'm not gonna be totally ready kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like I said, we're just taking it like one step at a time with all this stuff, and I have certain timelines for everything. So when
Hmm.
those happen, that's kind of when I'll ease into it. But I have no doubt
Okay.
in my mind that I'll be ready plenty before next year. But the question remains like, will I be ready in enough time before next year when a competition is happening? I don't know because it's
Yeah,
like I don't know when because it's like I'd have to be around whenever they are happening. But I'm definitely not closed off to that option. Like I would
for
love to
sure.
compete if I could before the
Yeah.
open next year. But again,
Yeah.
like ultimately it's like be ready for open quarter semis, that sort of run again.
Yeah. 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 So you're almost just like, I'm gonna stay as ready as possible, and then if the opportunity presents itself, I'll take it. But
Exactly.
ultimately, the goal is open quarterfinals, and then semifinals
Yeah.
for sure. Sweet. Um,
That's the
yeah.
plan.
Well, thanks for coming on, Bill.
Yeah, dude, thank you for having me. It's been good.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else you kind of want to like chat about or hit on
No,
or?
not really. I feel like I'm mostly good.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
so.
Yeah, I think people got a pretty good idea of like your journey, your history, like your mindset. So,
Yeah,
um,
no, it's been fun. I appreciate the time. I
yeah,
really
for
do.
sure. How do people find you on Instagram, social media, whatever?
I should know this. I want to say I don't even know what my freaking Instagram is. That's not
Oh,
good.
maybe I can pull it up really quick.
Yeah, see if you can pull it up. I want to say it's like William Leahy IV, but I couldn't tell you honestly. And I had that thought too before we got on this. I was like,
You like write it
I,
down somewhere.
yeah, I was like, I need to memorize my Instagram because I've seen people put like their names and then underneath it for a podcast their Instagram, and I was like, I
Yeah.
should do that. That's a good idea, but I don't
Yeah.
even know it. But yeah, see if you could pull it up. Maybe that
Yeah.
might help.
So it's William Leahy 4, right?
Yeah,
But 4 is in IV.
IV because I am the fourth.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, sweet.
Yep.
So, yeah, give him a follow on Instagram, guys. 79 total posts. That is awesome.
I know. I
Love
gotta work on
that.
that, dude. I gotta work on that. Not gonna lie, that's probably the weakest part of my entire game for sure.
Yeah. Hey, the sponsorships will continue to roll in if you get the social media going. So,
That's true. That's
um,
very true.
but yeah, thanks for coming on. Really
Yes.
appreciate it. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you have any questions, obviously hit Bill up. If you want to chat with him about his experience or anything like that, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm sure he'd be
Yeah.
able to
Just let
give
me
you
know.
some insight. So
Hmm.
cool. We'll catch you guys next time, and thanks again, Bill.
Yes. Always.